Welcome, Lund loyalists, YouTubers watching on John Lund Unleashed and the Bay Area Sports Collective, those watching on X and Instagram and listening on Apple and Spotify. It's John Lund Unleashed and JohnLundUnleashed.com. Brought to you by Riopel Cosmetic Surgery and Laser Center. Right now featuring amazing stem cell technology. For all your pain and for the guys, check out the latest in low T and testosterone therapy to make you feel like yourself again. Riopel Cosmetic Surgery and Laser Center at riopelcosmetic.com. Now, all juiced up and ready to go. Here's Johnny.
Good Saturday morning to you. Hope you are well. Thanks for hanging out. We always do a shorty on Saturday, give you a quick hour update on everything that is going on, and we appreciate you hanging out. As always, if you are new, Monday through Friday, that is what the show is looking like. 262 versus Mac Jones, who is the 15th overall pick, the first rounder. And some people just can't get by it, can't get past it. We'll give you the latest on that. It is episode 95. If you were new around here, thank you for making the time. You got the chalkboard right there, which we try to follow best we possibly can. You could be watching on YouTube, John Lund Unleashed. Thank you for doing that. We are growing the community, which is great. We have a great community if you're new around here. Lots of fun. You don't have to agree with what I say, and we just have a really good time. And it's a great community. We go back and forth. It's really, really cool. We're coming up on 5,000, which is a pretty good milestone. I know lots of people have a lot more, but we just started a few months ago, so it's been really, really cool, and we love having everybody aboard. So episode 95. I'll give you the madness at 89%. Purdy 262, I'll explain. Mac Jones, I'll play this thing from Mike Florio for you that you just have to shake your head. I'm going to write a piece on Kyle Shanahan. I feel it is time. The Warriors are in Atlanta taking on the Hawks. Cool Joe Ingles story from the NBA that I'll play for you. And I know Joe a little bit. Good dude. Hot NBA teams that could give the Warriors some concern. The Giants have an injury, I tell you all the time. Spring training, it doesn't matter except for injuries. Wonderful that so-and-so looks great. Oh, look at that. Oh, look at his ERA. Oh, my God. Look at how many home runs and batting average. Yeah, you realize that the reset button gets hit in a couple of days, and none of that stuff matters at all except for the injuries. Those things are real, and we'll get to one in the Giants that could affect things. Coming up on the last game. In fact, it's the last game in Scottsdale today. Severance finale was last night. Outstanding. Got a mom text this morning that I tell you about. And of course, if you are new around here, random simply means that can happen throughout the show. That just gets put at the bottom. I read over on the text line or whatever things trigger me. We take a quick exit off the ramp. We go right back on. That's kind of what the random means. So thank you. Also, you see that BSC in the corner. That is Bay Area Sports Collective. So not only on John Lund Unleashed, do you need to make sure that you subscribe so that you get all our stuff. You get your alerts on so you know when we post videos outside of the live shows, which are Monday through Friday at 8 a.m. Pacific, 10 a.m. on Saturdays. So make sure that you are you have those alerts on. Please click the like button because it helps the algorithm, all those likes, and they go, oh, okay, and we'll distribute your stuff to more so we can grow the community. Really appreciate that. And then subscribe on Bay Area Sports Collective, which is my show, Tom Tolbert, Holly Mack, and Creative Tony. So make sure that you go there, and then you can check out all the shows. Thanks for watching on X this morning. We're seeing the X numbers go up already. Instagram, good morning to the people on Instagram. I'm on my Facebook, John Lund Unleashed. You can say hello there as well. So good morning to all. And I really appreciate you making it on a Saturday because the tournament's going again, all this kind of stuff. I got to tell you about the how weird the tournament is just from one perspective and looking at brackets, but we'll do that. Let's start with this. Francis is here. And by the way, since you brought it up, I might as well just do this right now. One of the more interesting careers in the history of sports is one George Foreman, who passed away today, as you put at the top there of the chat, 1949 to 2025. And it was when heavyweights were king. A lot of the demographic doesn't realize, but heavyweight boxing was everything. It was right up there with the NFL and some of the biggest things ever. And these guys, between Muhammad Ali and Joe Frazier and George Foreman, and I mean, it was just heavyweight division. Those were the stars of sports. But George Foreman did that, retired, came back, was a fighter, but then started the grills and all that kind of stuff. And when it made more money than he ever did in boxing, but he became the George Foreman grill guy. Just unbelievable career that he made in his comeback, and one of the more interesting guys. I met him a couple of different times. Great personality, amazing guy. So morning, George Foreman today, who passes away at the age of 76. Just an amazing sports career for George Foreman. So since you brought that up at the top, let's acknowledge that right out of the top. Thanks, Francis. Appreciate that, by the way. Rest in peace, George Foreman. Did I put that up there? I did not. So thank you for that. Joe Schmo is here. AJ, Christopher, hello. Ernesto, Ron is here. Tacky, good morning. Hurley Bird, look at all of our friends are here. Daniel is here today. Good morning to you, my friend. Steve, good morning, Steve. It is always great to have you in here. Pine Needle, Kyle, Nate, hello. So anyway, great to see everybody. Great to see everybody today on a Saturday. Really appreciate you making the time on a Saturday, because I'm sure as the weather starts to be better, it's a little cooler today, but then tomorrow it's supposed to be nice. The week's supposed to be nice. I know that you want to just, juiced up with me too. I made a tremendous coffee today, and I got to be honest with you, when it comes to coffee on a Saturday, I juice my coffee a little bit, just a tiny bit, just a little bit of Bailey's. I mean, I don't want to be hammered for everybody, but I've just always had a tradition throughout my adult life that I just Bailey's and coffee on a Saturday just works. And so I've almost sucked down the whole damn thing. But anyway, great to have everybody today. And thank you. Keep the questions coming. If you want to make sure 100% that your question or comment gets up on the screen, we always have supers so you can donate to the show. And that way, and it's always much appreciated. All right. Madness. Here's the thing about March Madness. So here real quick before we get to Purdy 262 on the board there. I've told you this. I don't watch a ton of college basketball until the end of February, maybe early March. I usually have trashed my bracket. Like I said, I put in a couple $100 every year for guys that I've worked with through the years, friends. We put this thing, there's probably 25, 30 guys in this whole thing, a couple $100 a piece. And we don't believe in second place. It's just whoever wins. Like this, that's it. There is no second place. There is no third place. There is no get your money back. It's just the winner wins. And I think that makes it that crazy. But you're out pretty quick under those scenarios. We have a backup plan. We do that too because everybody gets knocked out by the first weekend. But anyway, it's so crazy because when we use ESPN to do it, to track it. And so what's funny about it is that you can see what other ESPN personalities have done. And Jay Billis knows so much about basketball. And if you missed it, he was on with Tom and he's on with Tolbert every single year at this time and talks about brackets. And I mean, he knows more about these teams and players. And it's really hard, the NCAA tournament, which I'll play a cut from Charles Barkley here in the next hour. That's absolutely hilarious. And they just put Barkley on because Barkley's entertaining, not that he knows anything. He hardly knows about the NBA, and it's not really hard to cover the NBA. There's not that many teams. But in the NCAA tournament, I mean, you got to know McNeese State. You got to know, all these just like what, who, where, what, huh? And you got to know the stories and all these different kind of things. And it's just a lot of work. And so Barkley knows none of it. I know virtually none of it. I know a few things, but I start watching it about, like I said, end of February, I watch the tournaments, things like that, see who's hot and all those kind of things. And then I lean on what everybody else does. I look at the numbers as far as the betting numbers more than I do the seedings. I don't really look at, I look at the seedings to a point. Yeah. Okay. A 16 isn't, one time is beating a 1, a 15 versus a 2. Those kind of things work. But you look at box score, you look at betting lines and all those kind of things. Anyway, long story shorter, I've hit 89% of my picks so far, and I have no idea how. And my wife already owes me dinner. Like I don't even know. And I looked at Jay Billis, and Jay Billis has hit like 52% of his picks. And I'm like, Jay Billis knows so much more about basketball, watches so much more basketball, and you just get lucky sometimes. Like, okay. Anyway, by and large, it's been a pretty chalk tournament. So anyway, I've just gotten incredibly lucky. So I just think that's funny. Not that anybody cares about my bracket. Just thought I would bring it up because I was looking at other ESPNers and I'm like, those guys know a lot more about basketball than me. It's just pure luck. It's just, the certain things, there's certain good teams. There haven't been that massive upset yet. So anyway, there's that. All right. The Purdy 262 thing. And maybe this is low hanging fruit. Maybe this is just easy on a Saturday. I don't know, but it's the whole reason I made this morning, the 262, and we actually had those two on when they took Brock before he was even, Brock. And then there's Mac Jones, who was picked 15th. We know the story. It was 2021, and Trey Lance went third, and Zach Wilson first, and Zach Wilson second, Trevor Lawrence first, all that kind of stuff, Justin Fields. And there's Mac Jones going 15 to the Patriots, had a really nice rookie season. So everybody's like, oh, Mac Jones is going to be great. And then both from a football perspective and a locker room perspective, and he's got a weird personality, and he goes to Jacksonville, and he's not good. And it's not only that, because when he came over here, just so that I could talk with a little bit, I watched him a little bit his rookie year. But the Patriots weren't very good, so it's not like I was studying Mac Jones. It wasn't like I was studying Mac Jones and the couple starts he had last year for Jacksonville. So I went back and looked. And he makes some of the worst decisions you've ever seen in your life. I mean, you're just going, what in the what? So, as has been the case, and I don't know why people can't get past this, especially people who understand the league, why they can't get past Brock at 262. It's constantly brought up. It's constantly brought up as far as the contract is concerned. Those days are long gone. It was 3 years ago that now it's a 2022 draft coming up on the 25 draft. And whatever you think of Brock, and you're more than welcome to opine on what you do think of Brock and whatever the contract is, we get so stuck on these numbers and he's not worth this and he's not. When it comes to contracts in the NFL, you have to take out that term from your vocabulary. He's not worth it, whatever the number is. This is funny money. It's monopoly money. We're paying these guys now, as far as a quarterback is concerned, $50 to $60 million. There's going to be soon an 18-game schedule. Now it's 17. But if you times 17 by what they're getting on average, and I know that they're not getting that, and there's funny money and all that stuff, but if you just say that a guy is making $50 million a year, which we're over that, so we're like 55, that's $3 million a game. $3 million a game. Most of us will work our entire careers and not make that, maybe, some people will. But I mean, if you're a person that makes, and this is above average in America, like $100,000 a year, you're not going to make that in a career. It's going to be right around that or a little bit above. But still, for a game. I mean, so let's just get this straight. I don't know how it got here. It's basic business. It's the numbers have gone through the roof, and we kind of get desensitized to it. But if you look at it in those terms, a guy makes $3 million or almost $1 million a quarter, which is going to be pretty soon. We're going to see quarterbacks make $1 million a quarter. He just went 4 of 6 for 38 yards in that quarter and a touchdown, and he made $1 million. $1 million, which I know isn't what it used to be, but it's still a chunk of change. So $1 million a quarter, that's what we're going to pay a guy to play quarterback in the NFL. It's insane money. Every position, $40 million for an edge rusher? Love of God, man. Seriously? Like, it's just an insane amount of money. So everybody's overpaid. Sorry. Everybody goes, oh, he can't possibly be overpaid. Steph Curry is amazing. Steph Curry in every single way, this is going to make sense. Steph Curry in every single way that you could be a professional athlete is. He works hard. He's great off the court. He's great on the court. He's great with advertisers. He's great with fans. He comes through in the clutch. Like, there's really nothing that Steph Curry can control that he doesn't do well, and he should be paid accordingly. There's no question. And what the market is what the market is. But the fact is, on and off the court in a given year, Steph Curry makes, I don't know, $200, $300 million. I mean, really, for dribbling a basketball, at the core of everything, it's a dude who dribbles a basketball and throws it into a hoop. That's what it is. And that equals $300 million. Meanwhile, other people are just busting their ass and doing all these kind of things. And life ain't fair. As hard as you work, whatever you do for a job, it's as hard as Steph Curry works. And I love these videos where it's like, look at so-and-so in the lab and they're lifting weights or something. Like that's their job, man. Like they don't get, look at that guy working out. And Russell Wilson's great at these. He always posts these videos of him working out. You're a freaking quarterback in the NFL. That's what you should be doing. Like, you don't get extra points for that. You're preparing for a season in which you get paid gobs of money. Like, it's all screwed up. But it is what it is. But my whole point of it is that everybody has to think of this way. So let me bring this all the way back. It's a long way we took off. But let's bring it back. That everybody's got to justify some way that Brock Purdy's not going to get paid. He's getting paid. It's, like I said, not the greatest, but the latest. It's just, that's what the position yields. Everybody's overpaid. Every single athlete is overpaid. All right, maybe some of the scrubs that are making the lowest amount of money, but anybody making like over $1 million to play a sport they love. I mean, they grew up playing this for free. In college, they did it for a scholarship. And now it's like, if I don't get $50 million, if I don't get $60 million, I ain't playing this game. You played it for free in high school. You played it for free in college, a scholarship. That's nice. But I'm not saying that they shouldn't get paid. That's what the market is. The owners make gobs of money. These TVs, these deals now with the platforms and all the different things that they do, they're just throwing money at them. I don't know where it's coming from, but it's coming from somewhere. So yeah, they should get their slice of the pie. That's just the way that it works. But just in terms of just looking at the way athletes are paid, and we don't often talk about these terms, that guy's overpaid, this guy's overpaid, everybody's overpaid. it's a sport. It's fun. We would do it all for free. We go play golf for fun. These guys go play for millions and millions of dollars. So chasing around a white ball that we get frustrated with and crack, the club over our knee, but we do it for relaxation. So, I mean, the fact that it's got to this point is mind numbing, but we're all desensitized to it because the numbers are just so big. But Brock Purdy just happens to be the latest. All right. So for all that to set up, let me play this for Mike Florio, because first of all, I've told you this before. There are certain people that you should listen to that are right and then dialed into the 49ers time and time and time again, or dialed in with a certain team. And it doesn't mean they're going to be right every single time. It's impossible. You just can't do it. But there are certain people who are dialed in with certain organizations and certain people who are not. Mike Florio talks about the 49ers incessantly, whether they're good or bad, and more so about the quarterback position. And he's brought up Tom Brady in the past and been wrong, and brought up Aaron Rodgers in the past and been wrong. And he doesn't have a reliable source in the building. Period. So he constantly is bringing up someone to replace Brock Purdy because he just can't get over the fact that it's 262. It's over. Like, the only way in which that is relevant is the contract that he signed when he was 262 makes a certain amount of money. But in terms of on the field, it means nothing. And now that initial contract is over, it really means nothing. But Florio just can't get over it. And finally, a guy who covered Mac Jones with the Patriots, Michael Hawley, he for years was a talk show host at WEEI in Boston, has to, in a very nice way, try to set Florio straight. So here's that conversation yesterday.
Judge was in charge of the quarterbacks. Look, Mac Jones, I've heard enough about Mac Jones over the years, and I've seen enough from Mac Jones. He is not going to show up and bow down to Brock Purdy. He's going to go in there with the mindset of, I can win this job. I was the 15th pick in the draft in 22. This guy was the last guy taken in 23. This guy, right place at the right time, running Kyle Shanahan's offense. That's all you have to do. You listen to Kyle. You do what Kyle wants, and you're going to play well. And, Jimmy Garoppolo had limitations. Trey Lance never really worked out. Brock Purdy was the guy who kind of just slipped in the back door at a time when they were trying to figure out what the hell they were going to do with Trey Lance. I can do this. I can be that good. I can be better. That's going to be Mac Jones' attitude. He's going to go in there regardless of whether or not it works. Yeah. But he's going in there not with the idea that I support Brock Purdy. No, I'm trying to beat Brock Purdy out, and I want to give the 49ers something to think about. And that's another reason for them to not show up with $60 million per year in new money average for Brock Purdy to get his deal done. Let's see what we got in Mac Jones before we do a long-term commitment with Brock Purdy.
Let me see if I can say it this way without calling anybody out in particular. But those who know will know. I remember I used to do talk radio. I did sports talk radio for 13 years in Boston. So we had a partner. It was great. And that partner moved on. I had to break in another partner. And there are certain people who, when they're not on the air and you talk to them, you really like them. They really make a lot of sense. But then when the red light comes on, you think, oh my God, this is awful. I like this person, but I don't like being on the air with this person. And so I think that's what Kyle Shanahan is going to find with Mac Jones. Mac Jones, if you talk football with Mac Jones, you love it. He understands, even before he was drafted. I don't know if you remember this, Mike, when that speculation that you mentioned earlier about, hey, Kyle Shanahan, they have the third pick in the draft. Will they draft Mac Jones? And Mac Jones is asked about it, and he gives this great, eloquent breakdown of the San Francisco offense. This is before he was even drafted. It was very impressive. So he is an impressive football mind when he's talking, but when he plays, it's not pretty. He just does things that are just head-scratching, and he will drive Kyle Shanahan crazy. He will make him crazy. So he's not going to beat out Brock Purdy. If he does beat out Brock Purdy, it's going to be for a game or two, and then Purdy will go right back in there and take the job back because he's just not capable of – I don't think he's –
All right, so you get the idea of what they're talking about there. And again, I don't know what it is with Florio. I have no idea what it is, but he's clueless when it comes to the 49ers. And clearly by what he said there, and he's kind of using Mac Jones as a shield. Mac is going to think this, but that's what Florio thinks of Brock Purdy. So Mac Jones went to Jacksonville last year. Doug Peterson, really good offensive coach, had the number 1 overall pick from 2021, Trevor Lawrence, who, by the way, if you just look at numbers, Brock Purdy in his career to this point has been better than Trevor Lawrence, just straight up across the board. And it doesn't matter where you get picked. So this is a national narrative that I guess his entire career just doesn't matter, is going to be tagged around his neck like a dog collar. And it's just going to say on the dog tag 262. So it doesn't matter what he does. It doesn't matter how good he is. And last year, he wasn't as good as he had been in the previous years. But anybody with football knowledge would say he lost a lot of guys and he tried to do too much and he is limited. Nobody's saying that he's not limited physically, but he's just a really smart football player. And we've seen him play a ton of times. And to suggest in any way, shape, or form that Mac Jones is some kind of leverage against Brock Purdy in contract negotiations is one of the dumbest things I've ever heard in my life, to be completely honest. He's a good quarterback. Nobody is saying, and I read this morning too, well, he's not, or who said this? Somebody said this too, and I didn't put it up because it was so stupid. But it was like the person said, he's not Lamar Jackson, he's not Patrick Mahomes, he's not Josh Allen. No shit. He's not? Really? There's 3 of those guys in the NFL. Nobody's saying they're not. And I'm not saying Brock Purdy is Matthew Stafford or even in the next step. But I mean, to say he's a top 10 quarterback, he's a top 10 quarterback. And he got him to an NFC championship game in Philly and his arm fell apart. And he got him to a Super Bowl in which a couple of more plays could have been made by Brock Purdy and they could have won the Super Bowl. But to suggest that he's on a par with, say, a Jimmy Garoppolo, I just don't agree. Now, again, you can have any kind of an opinion you want in this forum and on this show. That's totally fine with me. I'm just simply saying that when I hear Mike Florio and try to use this is what Mac Jones is thinking. That's what you're thinking. You're thinking seriously that Niners are going to think to themselves, this is going to be leverage and we don't want to pay Brock Purdy. And I talked about this yesterday. If they didn't want to pay Brock Purdy, there are 2 options that would truly give them leverage against Brock Purdy that they could use if they wanted to. One was Sam Darnold, who ended up, despite the 3-1-10 to Seattle, that's a 1-35 deal in Seattle. So if they weren't convinced that Brock Purdy was the guy, and they know a little bit more than you, I, and Mike Florio about what makes a good quarterback, and that this guy can run this offense at a really high level when he has what he needs, like all quarterbacks in the league. There's not one right now that can be bereft of talent and still say, you know what, we're good. Josh Allen's probably as close as it gets. Lamar Jackson, not too bad. But how much better was Lamar Jackson with Derrick Henry this year? Pretty good. How much better is Josh Allen with weapons? Pretty good. How much better is Patrick Mahomes with Tyreek Hill? A lot. That's just, they don't have great weapons in Kansas City, and they haven't been winning Super Bowls because of their offense. I don't know if you noticed, but they were down 34-0 at one point to Philadelphia. It's not a great offense. They won because they have a really good defense. Patrick Mahomes is great in the clutch, and he's a great quarterback. He's going to go down in history as one of the all-time greats. But he's not great without talent around him. That's every quarterback that's ever existed. So the things that go around Brock Purdy's neck are 262. He can't do them when there's not talent. He's not physically talented enough, but he has all of these other things that he does well. I'm not saying he's a top 5 quarterback in the league, but to say that he shouldn't be paid on a par with Trevor Lawrence, who got the money, or Jordan Love, who got the money, or Tua Tagovailoa, who got the money, he's getting the money. And so things like Mike Florio saying that Mac Jones is a threat, both on the field or in a contract situation for Brock Purdy, is asinine. And it makes all of us dumber happy Gilmore for having heard it. That's how it is. It's just dumb. Because what it means is you've never watched Mac Jones play. And Mac Jones in college, I went back. I mean, he pinpoint, boom, 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 boom. He was 41 touchdowns, 4 interceptions as a senior, his only starting year, by the way. And that does matter. We've heard it. We've seen it. Zach Wilson didn't have a lot of starts. Trey Lance obviously didn't. Mac Jones didn't. It's the guys who have been there. That's why Trevor Lawrence, to me, has been a head scratcher. Trevor Lawrence just hasn't been very good. And if you want to say that, Urban Meyer was a major, yeah, absolutely. But he had Doug Peterson, and they didn't get a whole lot better. They've brought in offensive linemen. They've brought in receivers. They've brought in a lot. And he's just been okay. But he got the $55 million. So if you're Brock's agent, you're walking in going, look, you could have had leverage with Sam Darnold. You said no. You want our guy. And you know what the going rate for a quarterback is. And I've already gone over the who's overpaid and who's not. It's overpaid. There's no question. But because of the 262, and that's the reason I put this up there, is if you switch draft positions, just draft positions with these two guys, and that was Brock holding up a 1, and that was Mac Jones, who is Mr. Irrelevant, because that's how they should have been drafted. Brock should have been 115, and Mac Jones should have been Mr. Irrelevant. They should actually flip that. And if Brock Purdy was 115 instead of 262, and they flipped that photo, no one would have a problem with it. They would actually look at the way that he's played the position and realized as a rookie, he went to the NFC Championship game, got help, no question. And as a second-year player, went to the Super Bowl, and then last year lost a bunch of guys. Just happened. I'm not saying he was at his best, but I'm saying he did force it. You can go back and you can see it. Things that he would normally not do, he did, because he thought to himself, I got to do more, which is the exact opposite thing you need to do. Just get it to the players, the playmakers. That's what the 49ers have got to be. Ricky Pearsall's got to step up. By the way, he's rocking number 1 now. I don't know if I do that. I don't know. It's weird on me. Just a quick off ramp, then we'll get back on. You know, like Michigan would give number 1 to the best wide receiver from Anthony Carter on down the line, David Terrell, and, you know, all these different guys were number 1 at Michigan. It's kind of an earned thing. Number 1 means like, you're Jamar Chase wears number 1. Like if I'm Ricky Pearsall, just stay with 14, man. I know you wore 1 at Florida. You were kind of a badass there, but it's like, I don't know. 1 is reserved for like, 1. You know, Debo could pull off 1, although he was much better as 19 than 1. And this is a completely irrelevant conversation. I'm just saying Ricky Pearsall moved to 1. I don't know. That kind of puts a target in your back. Like, I'm really cool. I'm wearing number 1. Like I played sports all through my life. I would never wear number 1. I don't know. Just a weird thing. Like our great shortstop / pitcher when I was in Little League, he wore 1. And I was like, yeah, that's a 1. Like that's a number 1 guy. Yeah, he can wear 1. 1 is like, yeah, I think you're pretty good to wear 1. I don't know. Just a weird number. It's just a number where it's like, okay, if that guy's wearing 1, that dude's really good. Like you put pressure on yourself wearing 1, so you better come through. Anyway, if Ricky Pearsall comes through, Ayuk gets healthy, CMC is healthy, George Kittle's there. I think they're going to fill the offensive line. I've said this over and over and over again. He's going to be a much better quarterback. And the 49ers know that. I know that they've gone back and watched the film and gone, he forced this, he forced this, he forced this. That's not Brock. We know what he is. But long story short is he's never going to outrun 262. Just not going to happen. I saw a couple other videos of it of people who are largely irrelevant, who I wouldn't want to give the stage to, but Florio, everybody knows Florio. And I just think it was really funny because I know Michael Hawley a little bit, and they're rough on guys back in Boston. And they ripped him. Bill Belichick ripped him. Bill Belichick didn't like him. He wanted to get rid of him. He goes, last year he's got Doug Peterson, pretty good offensive mind. Now, there's just something wrong with the guy. He makes dumb decisions. Like I watched Alabama. I'm like, yeah, he was dinking dunking to a bunch of incredible athletes against, Norfolk State. Like, yeah, okay. He was really good. And then there's just something missing in his game. I don't know what it is. Like, go back. And that's what's so funny is people give him the benefit of the doubt because he was the 15th pick. Like Florio is sitting there going, well, he was the 15th pick. Great. It's a 50-50 proposition in the first round. Like I told you, Mac Jones isn't good. He doesn't have the physical gifts that Sam Darnold did. Like Sam coming in and the thought process is Mac Jones is going to be a Sam Darnold type and he's going to resurrect Chris' career. Maybe he is, but he does not have the throwing arm. He does not have a lot of the things that Sam Darnold had that made him successful in Minnesota last year as he goes off to Seattle on a 1-year 35, which they could have used that for leverage. The second guy they could use for leverage, and there was actually a guy who said this, but I dislike him so much that I wasn't going to put him on my show. This happened on Fox the other day, and this person was suggesting that the 49ers trade Brock Purdy to the Giants for 3 number 1 picks and then sign Aaron Rodgers to play quarterback. And it means you are so not dialed into what an organization does. First of all, if Brock Purdy's worth 3 number 1 picks, he's not. But if Brock Purdy's worth 3 number 1 picks, then of course I'm signing him to a $60 million contract. Doesn't that tell you right now? If a team wants to give me 3 first-round picks for Brock Purdy, and I think they could get 1, I really do. I think like the Jets sitting at 7 who have Justin Fields, and Justin Fields has shown runs really well, great runner. At some point, you got to win from the pocket. Defensive coordinators know how to defend just a running quarterback. Like a Lamar Jackson who can run and throw, or Patrick Mahomes who can run and throw, or certain guys like that who are great athletes but can still win from the pocket. That's a problem. A guy who can just run and isn't a threat from the pocket like Justin Fields, really cool highlight reels, gets 1,000 yards, rushes for 10 touchdowns. Everybody thinks they're great, and yet they lose. And then after about 6 or 8 games, the team goes, okay, that's fun for the highlight reel. We're not winning. Our offense isn't progressing. He doesn't know how to win from the pocket. It's one read and run. So the Jets are going to find that out. So I guess it's 7. Maybe that would be too early. I kept saying 7. But there would be a team in the top 10 who's going to miss out. And I only think Cam Ward, by the way, is a quarterback that I like in this draft. There's some of the mid-round guys that I don't hate. But I've told you this again and again. I don't want to be in the Shedeur Sanders business. So if I don't think at Cleveland at 2 would do this, but time in the top 10 would say, all right, I'll give you a number 1 for Brock Purdy. The Niners wouldn't do that. The Niners would probably say we need at least 2. And then they could go out and get Aaron Rodgers like this person suggests. But I've told you this again and again and again. Aaron Rodgers rotted the Jets from the inside out. And Robert Saleh knows it as well as anybody. So all you have to do is think for 1 second. Robert Saleh is not the head coach, but he's damn well respected in that building. And he's not. He would tell Kyle Shanahan, I will quit if you bring in Aaron Rodgers. So there's that. And then in terms of ego-wise, like I said, Kyle Shanahan wants the offense run his way. He believes in what he's doing. I'm writing a piece later on Kyle Shanahan because people are down on him and are like, oh my God, have some perspective. But anyway, the marriage of Kyle Shanahan and Aaron Rodgers would never work. Because Kyle Shanahan would say, this is what I want. And Aaron Rodgers would say, that's dandy, but it should be run like this. And then it'd be like, oh my God, like the ego battle would be real. And so if they really felt that Aaron Rodgers, this is in the 49ers organization, if they did not want to sign Brock Purdy to $60+ million, and this never happens, they could have used Sam Darnold as leverage. They didn't. They could use Aaron Rodgers as leverage. They won't, but they could. And there's not normally an Aaron Rodgers type guy out there, at least given the career he's had. I think he's done, personally. I wouldn't want him to poison my locker room like he did with the Jets last year. He just isn't a good guy. You can talk to enough people around the league. So they're not going to do that. He's not Tom Brady at the end of his career. Like if Brady was sitting out there, here's what would be an interesting scenario. And they said no after the Super Bowl loss. I guess what year was it when they could have had Brady? I guess it was after the Super Bowl loss. And they could have had Brady and they didn't. Now, if Brady was out there right now, if we flip the clock back like 3 years, and remember Brady wanted to come to the 49ers, but the timing just wasn't right. The 49ers decided to pass. If Brady was out there right now and Brock Purdy was commanding $60 million, would the 49ers find a team that would give him 2 first-round picks? Like, would the Giants be that desperate? Now, the Giants are sitting at 3. I don't think the Giants would give up 3. I don't even think they give up 3 itself for Brock Purdy. They probably could. This person who is based in New York is saying that the Giants would give up 3. There's no way. I'm not giving up 3 first-round picks. Would they give up number 3 and then you'd sign Tom Brady? That would be an interesting scenario because Brady comes in. Yeah, he's got an ego, but he doesn't do it in a way that Aaron Rodgers does. He's not demonstrative about it. He's not a pain in the ass of the media. He's not a guy who, in a negative way, influences the culture of your football team, which is what this guy would do. Kyle's in charge. I mean, that's what it comes down to. Is I know Lynch is around and other guys are around, but at the end of the day, this team is Kyle's team. And he'll take all the blame for it. He'll take all the accolades when they come. This is Kyle's team. And so if you look through the history of just all you have to do to predict the future is look at history. And with Kyle Shanahan, Matt Ryan was about as high profile of a quarterback as he ever coached. But Matt Ryan was different. And Matt Ryan, because of the numbers, is going to be a Hall of Fame quarterback. But he wasn't one of those egotistical type quarterbacks. So when Kyle said this is the way the offense needs to be run, that's what Matt Ryan did. Now, they had a hell of a lot of talent on that team, guys like Julio Jones and et cetera. They had a lot of offensive talent. But it was Kyle Shanahan's show still with Matt Ryan. And then other than that, if you look at his quarterbacks, guys like Matt Schaub, Cleveland had a bunch of terrible quarterbacks. But Jimmy Garoppolo here, Brock Purdy here, he's had opportunities to bring in higher profile quarterbacks. Kirk Cousins, of course, is one. But he made Kirk Cousins. So those aren't the highest profile quarterbacks, and that's kind of what Kyle Shanahan likes. He wants a quarterback, and he says, look, I can work with quarterbacks, the 10th best, the 12th best, the 15th best quarterback in the league. I can do that. I don't need to have Aaron Rodgers and his ego around. He had an opportunity to get Tom Brady. He didn't do it. There was opportunities to do that. Now, given the fact that they are, like I said, desperate to win a Super Bowl, urgency, whatever the case may be, maybe he would bring in a Tom Brady to finally say, I got to get this monkey off my back, man, like Steve Young. I got to get this thing off. So that would be interesting. If the leverage of a Tom Brady was out there this offseason, that might be something they would look at. But Aaron Rodgers is a negative culture change. You don't want him in your locker room. And I know for a fact that Kyle and Aaron Rodgers would have a hell of a time coexisting. I just don't see it. And then the other thing is, then what do you do? Like Aaron Rodgers plays for a year. I don't think he plays well. I think your team is not good. I think he bitches and moans and cries and goes on the McAfee show and bitches and moans and cries. And now Kyle Shanahan's going, great, now we don't have a quarterback. Because, yeah, you have a first-round pick. That's dandy. So what do you do? You pick, C.J. Beathard in the third round again. They're just not easy to find. And then the other thing that's funny about what Florio said there is like the offense is easy. Like, you can stick anybody in there, really, because they stuck Brian Hoyer in there. He wasn't very good. Go on down the line of the guys that they stuck in there. They just stuck in there before they got Jimmy Garoppolo, who we all thought was a savior at the time because quarterback play for the 49ers under Kyle Shanahan was so bad. I mean, it was terrible, Blaine Gabbert. It was just like, oh, my God. Like, those guys couldn't do it. If you could throw anybody in there, Blaine Gabbert was a top 10 pick. Was he picked 10th, I think, by Jacksonville? It's a top 10 pick. Why couldn't he do it? I mean, that's kind of like Mac Jones being 15th, right, Mike Florio? I mean, Blaine Gabbert was the 10th overall pick of the draft by Jacksonville. He was here. He didn't light the world on fire. How come? You said it was easy. I mean, Jimmy Garoppolo was okay, but he wasn't lighting the world on fire. It's not easy to play quarterback in the NFL, even with a perceived quarterback-friendly system. And to be honest, I don't think it's friendly. I think Kyle Shanahan's up your ass constantly about what he thinks the play should have looked like. He has a term that he uses that to maximize each play. And he doesn't, just because you make it's an 80-yard play in the books, doesn't mean that Kyle Shanahan thinks you did the right thing. He's not easy on quarterbacks. He's not easy on anybody in the offense. And to say that it's an easy quarterback system and that anybody can do it is the dumbest thing that Florio may have said. And he said a lot of dumb things. So anyway, there's my thought. Mac Jones is not here to be competition on or off the field, financially, physically, in any way to Brock Purdy. It's just not happening. If you go back and you watch some of the throws that Mac Jones made as a Patriot, as Michael Hawley said in that clip with Mike Florio, you'll just be like, how is he even on a team? Like some of the decisions he makes, how's he even on a team? And then I went back and read some of the articles, and I wasn't there. But you go back and read some of the articles about Mac Jones and the way he acted as a member of the Patriots. At times, Belichick seriously just wanted to be like, like Charlie Brown or whatever. I mean, just come on. Now, he's not going to be that. He's not going to come in and be that way. But I have a prediction just based on what Michael Hawley said there, because he said he can talk the game. And there's a lot of people like that. Now, I'm sure you know him. Like guys that just can talk the talk and talk the talk and talk the talk. And you think, man, that guy's really smart. And then you see that person execute, and it's like, oof. And that's Mac Jones. So anyway, that's how it was. Yeah, that's a great point, Khalil. Josh Johnson came into the NFC Championship game. How'd that work out? I mean, it's easy. It's easy. Let's see. I'm just not a Aaron Rodgers guy, man. I think he's done. The way that he wrecked the culture in New York. Could you imagine them bringing him in and there's Robert Saleh standing there? I think you'd have a press conference for two things. You'd have one to announce Aaron Rodgers, and you'd have one for a new defensive coordinator. Because Robert Saleh, it was like, are you kidding me? Are you bringing this guy in after all I've told you about what a jackass he is, and I'm being nice with that word? My God. Yeah. See, just like this. I mean, I don't remember, and things were different back then, the 82nd overall pick, like you said, in 79. Walshaw brought potential, took 2 years to develop him. The Niners were lucky that Gracie was around to develop Purdy. I'm not saying any of those things are wrong. I'm just saying that if anybody watches Brock Purdy, and I think he's going to be much better this year, he's a good quarterback. Am I putting him into the top 3? No. But on any given Sunday, and the numbers mean something. They don't mean everything. When people look at numbers and it's just number, you're doing too much. It's kind of like we were talking about Buster Posey yesterday. Put them in their proper context. I'm fond of a term, and you know it if you've watched the show in any way, shape, or form with any regularity, which is watch the damn game. And I know what the numbers say, but what I try to do is I try to marry the numbers with actually what I'm seeing with my eyes and then talking to some people who actually know this stuff. And that's how I form my opinion. I don't base it just look at the numbers. As someone who has spun the numbers, you can spin the numbers. If you're trying to make an argument, you can spin the numbers in your favor a lot. Not all the way. I mean, if a guy sucks, a guy sucks. A person at a certain, whatever, stinks, they stink. I mean, this is how it is. You can't always shine it. Numbers can't always shine it. And they don't tell the story ever in a negative or positive way completely. You have to watch the damn game sometimes. So I realized that Brock has really, really good shiny numbers, and some people look at those numbers and think that he's the greatest of all time. I'm in the middle. He has something to prove this year, but I think he's better than Jordan Love. I think he's as good or better, and I don't care who was the first pick, than Trevor Lawrence. Just look at the way that they've played. Just throw it out. Trevor Lawrence was the first pick. Brock Purdy was 262. They've gone to head-to-head. Brock's been better. Brock has led his team to places that Trevor Lawrence has not. Trevor Lawrence got out of the gate because of a jackass head coach from college that he had in Urban Meyer, was behind the 8 ball to start. But Jacksonville, who's always a team that is flush with money, has gone out and spent that money on offensive linemen, wide receivers, all these different things. Brought in an offensive head coach in Doug Peterson, who won a Super Bowl, didn't work out. Bring in another offensive guy in Liam Cohen from Tampa Bay. We'll see how that works. He's gotten every single advantage that you could get being the first overall pick, and he started a boatload of games at Clemson, and he's not better than Brock Purdy. And he got a $55 million AAV contract. I don't know what it looks like. I haven't dove into it lately. Whatever it really is, it is. But Brock's going to get paid. And guys like Mike Florio, who can't get over 262 versus a first-round pick, he's really making the argument that because Mac Jones was picked 15th overall, which, by the way, he got the numbers wrong. He said 22 and 23. It was 22 for Brock in the draft, 21 for Mac Jones. But he's saying his argument is because Mac Jones was the 15th overall pick in the draft and Brock was 262, that somehow it still doesn't add up and Mac Jones can win the job. And I'm just like, oh, my God. Like if Purdy was pick 15, first round pick 15, and Mac Jones came in as 262, and with the resumes that they have to this particular point, he would never make that point. But the point is made because one guy was taken in the first round 3 years ago, and one guy was taken 4 years ago, and one guy was taken 262 3 years ago, and that's all he's basing it on. Like, did you even watch any of the games? I mean, you are on the East Coast, so you could have watched Mac Jones if you wanted to, but clearly you haven't. And everybody around Mac Jones, that's why Michael Hawley kind of had that look on his face. Like, how am I going to do this without ripping Mike Florio? Because the guy's terrible. The guy is freaking terrible. Anyway. All right, there's that. So, by the way, I spent an inordinate amount of time on Purdy 262, and we're 41 minutes into the show. Thank you so much for joining us, by the way. John Lund Unleashed on YouTube, as well as Bay Area Sports Collective on YouTube. Make sure you both of those places. Good morning to those. Got a good audience starting to roll on X right now, at John Lund Radio. Thanks for joining us. Instagram as well, Facebook, and I think that's all we're on today. We gave LinkedIn a break today. Those people. Probably no one there today, too, because it's a Saturday. No, they are. They're absolutely. Anyway, to wrap this up, draft position doesn't matter. It does when you're picked because you get a bunch of money and you may get more opportunities. Like when you pick Mac Jones 15th overall, you're going to get him a hell of a lot more opportunities than you're going to give Brock Purdy at 262. And by the way, there was a term that Florio used. Yeah, Jimmy went down. Trey was never good. And Brock just slipped in the back door. Like, no, he didn't. Like, he didn't just slip in the back door. You realize that the first game that he started and won, I was there and covered it, and I actually went down to the Brady press conference, not the Brock one. He beat Tom Brady. They beat him 35-14. They kicked their ass. And after that, it's like, okay, he went to Seattle the very next weekend, had bad ribs, and won in Seattle when they were still really tough to beat at home. Like the guy from day one has been great. He's had some bad games, there's no question. But every time he has a good game, it's the guys around him. Every time he has a bad game, it's 100% on him. He doesn't need me to defend him, but I'm talking about on a national level. It's just laughable because they just can't get over 262. It's just this thing around his neck that he'll always have, and he'll never break free of it. Even if he wins a Super Bowl, the pregame pieces, and I was in Vegas, so I didn't see all the pregame. We were doing the pregame. We did like an 8-hour pregame from Las Vegas a year or so ago. But I'm sure the whole pregame show was like 262, 262, 262, 262. Like, it's a great story to a point. But now that he is where he is in contract negotiations, has earned what he's earned, which is every penny that any of these other guys, and because it's another year and the revenues went up, and I don't know why people can't understand that concept. He's the latest, not the greatest. He's the latest. And so what it means is the number's going up. It doesn't stay flat. It doesn't go down. The revenue in the NFL didn't stay flat. And the revenue in the NFL didn't go down. Who did we play yesterday? Oh, this is a good cut. Let me play this for you. I said I was going to wrap this up. This is something that's actually smart that Mike Garafolo said yesterday. It's about percentage of cap. So everybody talks about, the actual amount, but what these guys get. So this is what the agent bases it on. Let me play this for you really, really quickly from yesterday.
I know that it's a system that people think, you just plug a quarterback in and he runs the system. It's more oh, really? Because they tried to do that with a couple of guys. And it didn't work as well as it has with Brock Purdy. So Purdy is going to look at this and say, I need to be paid like one of the top quarterbacks in the league. Now, if you go back over the last 5 years or so and you see the quarterback deals that were done, the average per year is usually like anywhere from 21-ish to 25% of the salary cap. if it's on the low end of that, he's going to clear guys like Trevor Lawrence. Now, he's not going to get to Dak Prescott's number of 60, but he'll be in the high 50s. If he really wanted to push it to Joe Burrow, who took the biggest chunk of the salary cap, that's like $68 million per year. I don't get the sense that Brock Purdy wants to go there because that's going to hurt the team's ability to do other things like we were just talking about. But he wants his respect, and he wants money that's in line with those other quarterbacks.
He said more, but I think that what he said right there is really relevant to the conversation. So let's think about this. He said that when quarterbacks, rather than just looking at the number in an arbitrary fashion, okay, it's 55. Like it's okay, he's got to be 55. He's got to be. The reason why the number is going to go up is for what Mike Garafolo just said there on NFL Network, which is the cap just went up $25 million. The cap in the last 2 years, while Brock has been playing on a rookie contract, has gone up $50 million in the last 2 years. On a salary cap that's what, in the 250s? So that number has gone up. So what the agent is going to say to the 49ers, and the Niners aren't worried about 262. The Niners aren't worried about any of this stuff. This is just outside talk, okay? So it doesn't matter what Florio says or anything like that. What the agent is going to base it on is exactly what Mike Garafolo just said right there. 21 to 25% of the cap is the number that it's been. So the agent probably won't even throw around 55. He's just going to do the quick math on what the salary cap is right now. Right? Which I think is what, 253? I think it's 253. So, oh man, I'm so bad with math. So if you look at just that part of it, let me just do this real quick. I know this is probably the worst part of the show, to be honest, completely honest with you. So if we go 253, there we go, 253 million times 21%, which is even on the low end, then you're looking at $53 million. That's the low end. Okay, so he's not going to take that because you're getting a raise, right? So let's do that one more time. 253. You can do this at home. 253 times, I don't know, let's just bring it up. He's not going to get, like you said, he's not going to get Joe Burrow's 25%. Let's just split the difference. Let's say, 23% equals, okay, that's 58 million. There you go. That's the number. We just did it. We just did the contract negotiation. Now, the money up front and all those kind of things, whatever, what's guaranteed. See, that's the hang up. It's not, everybody gets stuck with the AAV because that's what goes on the sheet. So everybody goes to spot rack or everybody goes to over the cap and they go, oh, look at the AAV. That's really where people are judged, right? The agent gets judged on that per, which is monopoly money. It's a joke. Just like I said, as far as Brandon Ayuk is concerned, he didn't get 4 and 120. He got 3 and 76. But let's do 4 and 120 so that when we do the AAVs and everybody looks it up, I made 30 million. Everybody loves it. Oh, he made 30 million. Didn't make 30 million. But if we split the difference, as Mike Garafolo just said right there, 21% at the low end is 53, 25% is what Joe Burrow got of the cap. Now that the cap has gone up, 23%, which is splitting it in the middle, that means Brock's being a nice guy, is $58 million. So that's probably what he's going to get. He's probably going to get like he's going to get, right? Oh, it's 279. So it's even going to get higher. Sorry, I did 253. That was the old one. You're right. It got jacked up. So let's look at that. That's even higher. So that maybe it is going to be 60 million. But the point is that that's what the agent is going to be arguing. The agent is going to be arguing. So what did we say there? Let's just say 278 just to have fun. 278 times 23%, which is the middle. That's $64 million. So for those who are saying that, well, no, he's not going to get, the number goes up every year. The revenue goes up every year. It's not saying flat. It's not going down. The number just went up $25 million. I had the old cap. You're right. So 278, 279, whatever the case may be. So now he's in the high 60s now. Or excuse me, 63. Is that what I just said? 64. So if you give him 55, he's way under the number. As Mike Garafolo just said, it's 21 to 25% of the cap. That's what these guys have gotten. So it's not a number. It's a percentage of the cap. And that's what the agent is going to be arguing. The agent's going to say, well, okay, even if we go 21% on 278, do I have to do this one more time? Love of God. So there was no math on this show. Let's see here. Let's try it one more time. All right, let's just do low end, okay? Let's just do low end of the cap. 278, which is low on it, times 21%, which is the lowest any of these guys have taken. 58 million. 58 million. So the number starts at 58 million AAV. That's what it does. And so, look, I didn't make it up. The agent's going, I didn't make it up. Plus, here's the other thing the agent's going to say. Because what the agents do is they'll average it out. So if it was a rookie contract, let's say he was the first overall pick. Okay, so then he takes the other money, averages out, and shows the team.
the agent's going to go, you just got this guy for height of $1 million for the first few years of his career. Now you put this money in. Look at the average annual value of his career. Let's say that this is a 6 or 7 year deal. When he made $1 million the first few years, you're still getting a hell of a bargain on this guy. So that's what the agent is going to say to the team. You paid him like $1 million the first 3 years, and now you're going to pay him X over the next 5-6 years, and still look at the average then versus a guy who was the first overall pick. You're still getting a hell of a bargain. That's what we're going to say. And the Niners know they're over a barrel. And if they wanted to get out of it, I'll reiterate this again. If they wanted to get out of it, Sam Darnold was sitting there for a year and 35, which is what he got in Seattle. Not 3 and 110. He got a year and 35 in Seattle. They could have done it. They could grin and bear it. And if they really, really hate it, if Jed is really that pissed off about all of this, like everybody says he is, he could have said, you know what? Let's just grin and bear it on Aaron Rodgers for a year. And we'll get a first-round pick. We'll get a first-round pick from a team in the top 10, and we'll take a quarterback. We'll take Jackson Dart or whatever, whoever. Or next year we'll wait, and we'll try to get, tank for Arch. That doesn't really make any sense. If someone can come up with a better one than that, which you can, but you understand my idea. Okay, let's get a couple of first-round picks, and we'll get ready for Arch Manning to come out of Texas. That's what we'll do. And we'll take Aaron Rodgers for a year. And we already threw a bunch of guys away anyway, so nobody thinks we're going to be good. Let's just go get Aaron Rodgers. Oh, my God. Can you imagine him and Kyle? No chance. Anyway, that's what the battle is over. And one more thing, and I promise we'll move on because we're an hour into the show, and I told you we'd do the show in an hour today. Jesus. On William, this is a great point. Josh Allen came out. I'm going to tell you right on this one. Josh Allen came out. I don't know why I'm going off the screen. And said he could have gotten $65 million. He wanted 55 so the rest of the team could have guys around him. I don't think that Brock's going to do that, especially after being underpaid all these years. I don't think he's going to do it. You're right. There's an exception to every rule. But if you go out to what Mike Garafolo said right there, the Lawrence deal, the Love deal, the Tua deal, the Dak deal, all these deals at the bottom are 21%. So even if we take your premise, all right, let's take your premise on that money, okay? And again, these are people saying he's not going to get it, he's not going to get it, he's not going to get it. Let's just take your premise that Brock's a nice guy, which I don't think he is. I don't mean that in a derogatory way. He's not Aaron Rodgers or anything. Times 20% of the cap. Okay, that's still $56 million. So that's at the lowest of the low end. If he said, okay, I'm going to be like Josh Allen, who's already made a boatload of money and is on the record on a video said, yeah, I could have got a lot more money, but he goes, what's another few $1 million to me? What do I need? Another ski boat, another house? He's like, I have a house to live in. I have a car to drive. That's not going to be Brock Purdy's mindset for a guy who just made $1 million. It's just not. So even if we go at that end, he's at $56 million, which I don't think he would take. I just don't. That's the lowest of the low. So anyway, this started with the discussion of Florio disrespecting him and basically looking at Mac Jones saying he was the 15th pick. Brock was 262. Mac Jones is going to be in competition with him. And that was my whole point. And I'm just like, oh my God. And people actually will believe that stuff. I know, Papa J. I try. Like on Saturday, I tell my wife every Saturday, I go, hey man, I'm just going to do a quick hour. And I'm going to do a quick hour and then we can go out. We can hang out. It's going to be nice. It's not going to be as nice today. My God, I'm having all sorts of problems. Anyway, and I'm like, okay, I'll do a quick show. We get into this Brock Purdy thing. It's just the Florio thing, and maybe I need to play it. No, do I need to play it for you again? Did you guys all see this? I already played it. You can go back to the beginning of the show, and it got me off into an hour tangent almost. I got to stop doing that. I got to stop paying it. I got to stop doing it. I doubt Jed is willing to pay Brock $60 million. The only reason I'm saying he's going to pay him $60 million, Steve, and again, you know me, your opinion is absolutely valid and respected. The only reason they're going to do it is, if I'm his agent and I'm just sitting there and I've done, they've negotiated back and forth. Sam Darnold's off the board. Aaron Rodgers is not coming here. I'm in Northern California as we speak. You may be somewhere else. Aaron Rodgers is not coming to the 49ers. Breaking news. He's not. It's not happening. The 49ers will not bring Aaron Rodgers here. Now, look, hang on to this clip and I could look stupid, but if they wanted to bring in Aaron Rodgers, they already would have. It'd be that simple. Have you heard his name at all connected to the 49ers? Vikings, Steelers, Giants, retirement, TV, ayahuasca instructor. Like, you've heard all sorts of stuff of him. Go off into the woods to never return, which would be my choice. You haven't heard his name. It doesn't mean it couldn't happen, but he's not coming here. I know the organization. It's not happening. I know people within the organization. Sometimes you think I'm just, foaming at the mouth and flapping my gums, which sometimes I am. But I know these guys a little bit, and he's not coming here. So if I'm his representation, where's the Niners leverage here? Where's the Niners leverage that they should not and will not pay him the percentage of the cap that most other quarterbacks in this situation have gotten? I'll wait. I'll hang up and listen. There isn't. There is no leverage here. Mac Jones is not leverage. Rodgers isn't coming here. Darnold signed with Seattle. Daniel Jones signed with the Colts. Like anybody, Zach Wilson signed with Miami. Anybody you think who could make them have leverage, the only realistic option at this particular point would be Rodgers. And I mean, seriously, that would be amazing. I would love to see Aaron Rodgers here. And then I demand that there's cameras in there, like some sort of I don't think anybody's doing Hard Knocks this year, because remember Belichick was going to do it. And then at the last minute, they pulled out of it. And I don't think anybody wants to do it anymore. And even though I love it, I think Hard Knocks is awesome. I've seen it a million times. I've covered a bunch of training camps. I still think it's really funny and cool and interesting and all those kind of things. And I hate the fact that they took away the part where you cut guys like, hey, we're not going to show that anymore. Anyway, okay, let's be done with Brock. Let's be done with Mac Jones. I'm writing a Kyle piece that I will put up later. A sweet, clean viewer / listener got angry with me about my opinion on Kyle Shanahan. Nothing but respect. Everybody can have their own opinion on Kyle Shanahan and understand it. I think that if people want Kyle Shanahan gone, which is a vocal minority, it's because they just need to be reminded of what it used to be and how hard it is to find a head coach. And I'll just say this, and then we can move on to other things. If you think about the history of coaches for the 49ers, they've had Bill Walsh, they've had Jim Harbaugh, they've had Kyle Shanahan. Mariucci wasn't bad. Seifert was okay. Had a lot of great players. George Seifert is a defensive coordinator. Awesome. George Seifert as head coach. Not terrible. Not bad. Good. Not great. But then the rest of the history of this organization is what? Led by who? Jim Tomsula, Chip Kelly, Mike Singletary. Mike Nolan, you go down the line and it's like, guys, it's hard to find a really good head coach who knows what he's doing and the players will buy into and the players want to play hard for, especially in today's day and age. Kyle is an amazing offensive mind. Why does everybody take this offense and use it? Why? Because it's really good. And when they've got healthy players, and I've said this time and time again, and then I'll get off the Kyle thing because there's a lot of people going, yeah, I know, I don't want him fired. When this team is healthy, they go to NFC championship games and Super Bowls. When they're hurt, they don't. They suck. There's no middle ground with this team. And you can go back to the beginning with Kyle Shanahan. There's a whole reason why he was hired and taken away from Atlanta, because the Niners sucked and were an absolute dumpster fire when he got here. So the first few years, I'm not taking him away as far as his record is concerned. Those were his record. He stands behind it. He was the head coach. But ever since they got this ship kind of turned around to the right way, when they're healthy, they go to NFC championship games and Super Bowls. That's what they do. And when they're hurt, they don't. It's as simple as that. So, look, this is a weird offseason. We've all kind of consumed it and understand now what we mean. I don't want Hufanga back. I didn't. Leonard Floyd, don't care. Aaron Banks, vastly overpaid. Jalen Moore, please. He almost got quarterbacks killed for the majority of his career as a 49er. We just don't like the quantity. We've said it a million times, the quantity versus the quality. A lot of quantity left the building, not a lot of quality. If you have a rip on the 49ers this offseason, it's like there was a lot of guys that they could have signed, like a Charles Amen who went back to Kansas City, et cetera, et cetera. There was a lot of guys that I think could have fit with this team that wouldn't have been really, really expensive. But unless apparently you played special teams at a really high level, the 49ers don't have a whole lot of interest in you as a veteran. And I wrote a piece, and it's up there right now, and you can check it out at johnlundunleashed.com about what they need to do in the draft, because the draft is the plan. And they've had good drafts, and I went back to the 86 draft, which is the best draft the Niners have ever had. They would need that draft to make this offseason a success. And that's not realistic, really. It could be. The best draft they had was in 19, and they got Nick Bosa. They got Deebo Samuel, and that was great. And a few other guys that were really, really good out of that draft. They had a really good draft last year. As crazy as it sounds, as good as last year's draft was, and we're not sure on Pearsall, but Dominic Pooney's really good. Renardo Green looks like a starter. Mustafa's going to be a starter. Like, that's a really nice draft that they had last year, especially where they were drafting from. that draft wouldn't be good enough to make this offseason a success. As they got 3 or 4 really good players. Dominic Puni, a really, really good player. But if they had last year's draft this year, it would be encouraging. It'd be good, but they would struggle. So they need to have like a historic draft to be that great. So it's not like I'm saying that they've done everything right. They haven't. But what got overblown, so the part of re-signing or signing the right players, I question that. But the players who left, I'm not worried about anybody but Dre Greenlaw. I've said that over and over and over again. And the fact that he got a 1-year, $11.5 million contract, that's what he got, essentially. Whatever the numbers say, 3 and 31, so that the agent can look good, whatever. It's a $1 and an $11.5 million deal. That's what it is. And the 49ers must have pissed him off, alienated him so much with their initial offers that he said no. And you heard, and this guy you can trust, Adam Schefter came back on a Denver radio station, and I played it earlier on in the week, and said they tried to get him back even after he committed to Denver. Remember, heavy petting on Monday, actual feather pen to paper on Wednesday. And in that period of time, according to Adam Schefter, they tried to get him back. And if they had given him, I think, an offer that was in the ballpark of Denver and then pleaded to get him back, it might have swayed him. But from what I understand, the number was so low that it just pissed him off. And he said, no, I'm staying here. I'm going to stay here. That's the only one of the offseason of guys who left who I really think is going to hurt. Outside of that, Aaron Banks, Jalen Moore, Hufanga hasn't been good since 22. Mustafa was probably going to beat him out anyway. Go back and look at the numbers and watch the film a little bit of what Leonard Floyd did last year. He was terrible. He had 6 sacks or 8 sacks. You realize that there's 600 other plays that he played last year. 600 versus 8 sacks. And in those 600, just saying, Malik Collins, There's a reason why they were so bad defensively. I think it's so funny that people are like, oh my God, I'm outraged. Did you see the defense last year? They weren't the top unit in the league. This wasn't the unit from like 19, This wasn't Robert Saleh's top-ranked 49ers defense for 2019. This was like the 26th ranked defense with the defensive coordinator who got fired and the assistant who got fired. Those 2 guys, gone. But we got to keep all those guys. All right, stop. Stop, Lund, stop. I have a lot of good other stuff. You know what? Let's lighten the mood. I want to be in a good mood. I didn't play this at the beginning when I did March Madness. I'm 89% on March Madness. Did you see this yesterday? And this is just Charles. And if it was any other analyst in any other sport on any other channel, people would just be like, "Oh my God, this guy's an ass. What is he doing here?" And we know this. Charles and Shaq have admitted they have a hard time watching NBA games. So when they put Charles Barkley on College, where you're talking about 64 teams. I know that play in, but he's not watching that. Like 64 teams versus the NBA. And he kind of knows the NBA, kind of doesn't, knows the major storylines in the NBA. But then you go and try to put that on the NCAA tournament in the middle of the NBA season. You put Charles on there. He's there for entertainment purposes only, not for any kind of analysis work. Right. So they went to half yesterday. Take a watch of this. This is hilarious.
To AT&T at the half. Ernie Johnson, Clark Kellogg, Kenny the Jet Smith, and Charles Barkley. Biggest takeaway from the first half.
Well, I think that's a good question.
Thank you very much.
That's his job. Totally his job. I was
that came out of left field for you.
Would you expect Ernie not to ask you anything? Would you expect him to sit here and just let you?
Just look at you?
I was looking. You know the game I'm watching. I'm watching Bryant against MSU.
You can't watch more than one game at a time. You watch all these TV shows at one time.
That's at night, man. This is at night. They're not all at the same time, man. One after the other. Ernie, I'm not gonna lie. I was paying attention to the Bryant score. So get at the Clark.
Have you ever seen that ever? And look, I did sports radio for 27 years in lots of markets, and there were times where it was like I'm not as versed maybe as I'd like to be on a certain topic, but I could BS my way through it. Charles is just like, look, I wasn't watching that game. So you got to throw it to one of these other guys' games. And you know what that tells you? He has money on, he said MSU, so Michigan State. Like he has money on a game. He's like all of us. Like we're sitting there, we're watching a game, but it's like all these different games are on at one time. If I have money on a game or some sort of an interest on a certain game, that's the game I'm watching. Like this game might be better, whatever. So and a lot of times, let me just pull back the curtain a little bit too. Where they're going. Like, it's not like Ernie threw a curveball to Charles Barkley. Hey, guys, we're going to start with this. Like, a producer is telling you got an earpiece in. Producer's telling you where they're going to start. Hey, guys, we're going to start with, game X. We'll throw to this. We'll do that. Okay, that's going to be block A. block A, block B. So that's going to be block A, guys. Producer's like telling you where you're going to go here. It's not, they're not laying everything out, but it's like, this is what we're going to do. Ernie, you got this read. You got to get to this. Their first highlight package is going to be that. Like, where it's going. And then, so Charles is just watching another game. He has a bet on it. And then he's like, well, that's a good question. But what did you see in the first half? That's a good question. Oh, tremendous. But he can get away with it. Like, if I did that, they'd be like, one just doesn't work. It doesn't work, man. What's wrong with that guy? But there it is. I lost faith in my bracket when it lined up with Barkley's picks. You couldn't be more right, man. That's 100%. See, that's what I mean is sometimes I've done this before. I'll look at a Jay Billis and I'm just going to take his pick. And this year I just didn't have time. Like all of a sudden I was like, oh my God, it was like right before a show or something like that. And I just threw it together as fast as I could. Like I said, I'm at 89%. And I'm not even in the top, I think I'm like a millionth on the ESPN bracket. I've hit like 89% of my picks. I'm like a millionth. But like I said, I woke up this morning and Jay Billis was like 6.6 millionth. And I'm like, the smartest basketball man alive. I hardly even watch. Yeah, I don't know anything about it. Let me see what else. I was going to do an hour. We're in an hour 5. I'm fine. My wife's going to come in here and get mad in just a second, but we'll be fine. Let me get back to the chalkboard. Let's see, where are we? Episode 95. Madness, I told you, 89%. You do not care. Brock Purdy, 262 versus Mac Jones, 15th. People still can't get over it. Kyle Piesingman to write at johnlundunleashed.com. Warriors. I know I played the Barkley thing, but we need to lighten up. Warriors at Atlanta tonight. No Steph Curry. We know that. The thing that is making me nervous that the Warriors could drop down to 6 as we continue to talk about how great they've been, how they're going to make noise in the playoffs. Don't look now, but the Clippers are only one game back in the loss, and Kawhi is starting to play well. As you can see there, 23-10-4, 33-7. You can read. So you get that right there. Kawhi is all of a sudden playing well. At Norman Powell, the rest of these guys, James Harden. So they're only one game in the loss back of the Warriors. So keep that in mind as they're hot. And then I keep just going, whatever. They're going to play Houston. They're going to play one of these young teams. They're going to beat them in the playoffs. You shouldn't be peaking now, but it's not bad to win. So that's one of the teams that you're looking at the Rockets going, hey, the Warriors could actually catch them. In the last 2 weeks, that's what they've done. Now, there's a couple of New Orleans in there. There's a Phoenix. They stink. Dallas stinks. Chicago stinks. Philly stinks. Orlando, Miami. You know what? I take it back. All those teams stink. They completely stink. They've taken advantage of the schedule. Give them credit. They've taken advantage of the schedule. Miami's grid looks opposite of that. Orlando, Philadelphia stinks. Chicago stinks. Dallas, lots of injuries, stink. Phoenix stinks. New Orleans twice stinks. So, yeah, they've taken advantage of the schedule. Never mind. I'm not afraid of the Rockets. But to dump into the 7 seed, Kawhi starting to play well. That's all I'm ever saying about the play-in game and the play-in games. Because if you're 7, then you just go right in. And right now you'd play the Rockets. And I still don't fear the Rockets. Look at that crappy schedule they just played. Take advantage of it. Give them credit. But still, they're taking advantage of a really bad stretch in their schedule. And that's great for them. But I get nervous because I'm looking at Minnesota. And I'm going to play a clip from Minnesota that I think is really cool. Because they're in the midst of trying to figure this thing out as they're 2 back in the loss of the Warriors. So I'm going to play something for you in just a second. But the Clippers are hot right now. And somehow they've kept their head above water. And now Kawhi's playing on the regular. Now he'll probably get hurt again before the end of the year. But with Steph out for an undetermined amount of games, and we'll find out in Atlanta what that means. I think Jimmy's going to step up. We'll see. But he's out for an undetermined amount of games with this back contusion. And in 2021, he had a similar injury and he was out for 5 games. There's only 12 left. So would they drop in with the Clippers being so hot? As far as Minnesota, look, this is a feel-good story. This is really cool too. So Joe Ingles' son is autistic, and I guess he hasn't really watched him in the league. He's a younger guy, and they've got a bunch of kids. And so, the announcer will tell you what the story is. But this is a really cool story from last night with Joe Ingles, former Utah Jazz guy, former Orlando Magic guy. He doesn't play much anymore. So here's a really cool story. Something the Timberwolves did. And remember, the Timberwolves are fighting for a playoff spot. So this is a really cool story.
And kids have been living in Orlando all season, but have been in town this week. His son Jacob is autistic and has not been able to watch an entire NBA game all the way through because of the sensory overload. Well, he was able to watch last Sunday's win over the Jazz all the way through. It was a big moment for the family. Only issue was Joe didn't play. Well, they're back in the building tonight, and in a classy move by Chris Finch, Joe is not only going to play, but he's going to get his first start of the season. And we welcome you back. Joe Ingles got the start tonight, his first start of the season. You see his family there on the left, his wife, Renee, his twins, Mila, and Jacob, who we were talking about to start the broadcast with the green hat. He wants a T-shirt. And then the youngest son, Jack, enjoying some popcorn. Joe had some good looks.
So that's pretty cool. I mean, the fact that they would get him in the game, they're in a playoff crunch, they know what's going on, but they would put Joe Ingles in a game because his family's there and his son is autistic. And he, like you said, he gets sensory overload. And they watched a full game, which to the family was a big deal, but then Joe didn't play. And you're fighting. They're 2 games back in the loss column of the Warriors. So you're fighting to try to get out of the play-in. And yet you're like, you know what? I'm going to start this guy. Don't care. And I didn't look at the box. I don't know how many minutes he played. Probably didn't play much. But still, the fact is that you're throwing your starting lineup in flux, and I don't know that Steve Kerr would do that. So I thought that was really cool. So that was a cool story. Other things that we need to talk about today, I did mention George Foreman. If you joined us early in the show, one of the most amazing sports careers there ever is. There's just no other way to put it. George Foreman, if you are old enough to remember when heavyweights used to rule the sports universe, and it was George Foreman and Joe Frazier and Muhammad Ali and Ken Norton and those guys in Wide World of Sports and all that, and the Thriller in Manila, just all these really cool things that the heavyweights just to dominate the sports world. And they went away, obviously, but then George Foreman retired, came back, fought again, and then it was about the George Foreman girl, and the guy made millions and millions and millions and millions of dollars. And it was after, actually, he sold the whole thing, and he made just $1 trillion. But anyway, just one of the most fascinating sports careers of all time. George Foreman has passed away at the age of 76. So let's make sure that we acknowledge that. And then I tell you this all the time when it comes to spring training, I don't care what they do. I like that Justin Verlander's throwing 96, 97 for the Giants. I like that Robbie Ray looks like he's completely bounced back from Tommy John. Those are all great things. I like that Luis Matos is playing the way he is. It's great things. But you know what? In a couple of days, it's like your video game that you've been playing for, you can't stop, you can't put it down. All of a sudden, the cat walked by and unplugged it. It's like, well, you got to start over again. Well, that's what's going to happen. In like 2 days, it's like it never existed. And go back and try to find spring training numbers. You can't. Like they're gone. They erase them from the internet, everything. Because nobody likes them. Whether you're good, whether you're bad, doesn't matter. The only real thing to come out of spring training are injuries. And so like the Yankees, for example, Garrett Cole, are like, oh, well, this came out yesterday. Encarnacion had just an amazing spring, right? Everybody's like, oh my God. So he won the DH job. He's got a fractured left hand. We'll get more testing. So we'll get additional tests today. Awful news for a guy who had a good spring and was headed for a lot of DH at bats. That's the worst thing you like to hear, because here's a guy who's a power right-handed hitter, can play a little bit outfield, but he's not great out there. But still, you have a DH spot. He can play a little bit of outfield. But what he gives you is power, which is something that the Giants greatly lack. And every time I would do prep for the show, everybody's like, oh, my God, Encarnacion. Like he's like, oh, my God, And he's had a good spring. Now, maybe he comes out of the gate, he's absolutely terrible, and he's a 4A player. I don't know. He hasn't proven it beyond a shadow of a doubt. So I'm not overly worried about it. But still, this is the things that you hate to see, because injuries are real. A fractured left hand, that's going to be a while. So he's going to be out for a while. And that's the thing. Everybody, great that Verlander, who's pitching today, by the way, their final game in Scottsdale is today. Verlander's throwing 96, 97. Awesome. Landon Roop hasn't given him anything in spring. That's great. Robbie Ray looks like he's totally back. Wonderful. Matt Chapman looks great. On and on and on and on and on. They have a tremendous spring training record. Awesome. Reset a couple of days from now. Didn't even happen. And now here we go. And if those things had happened in the midst of, the middle of the season, we wouldn't even notice. But we notice in spring training, and we notice at the beginning of the year what kind of a start somebody gets off to. That's about it. And so if they were red hot in the regular season or something like that, yeah, you're going to have ups, you're going to have downs. Those things are going to happen. Injuries are the thing in spring training. And Encarnacion as a fractured hand and fractured hands, that's not good. That's probably months. So that's the worst thing you could possibly hear out of Giants land today as they played their last game in Scottsdale. Severance finale was last night. Am I wasting my time and boring people if I bring up Severance? And I'm not going to bring up, if you haven't watched the Let's see here. If you haven't watched this, I'm not going to bring it up to you. I'm not going to give anything away, so you don't have to turn off the show. Yeah, you're probably right. Jimmy Tom Sula. I won't give anything away as far as Severance. If you haven't watched Severance, or if you were like my wife and I for a while, we watched like 1 or 2 episodes and went, this is too weird. We're not watching it. And then we waited maybe 6 months. We started again. And I don't know whether it was the timing or whatever the case, we got into it. And so the season 3 finale was last night. And suffice to say, it was wild. And I'm not going to give anything away, but there was a lot of weird stuff. And there was like a marching band. And it's just, I don't know who I do know who writes it. I mean, I saw the credits, but the writers and producers and the amount of dementedness, that's not a word, the demented nature in which this show twists and turns is wild. So if you have never seen it, it's probably like, or if you've seen it once or twice, you're like, what? But the premise is that they mess with your mind and they put a chip in it. And so when you work, you're one person, an innie, and when you're a regular person, you're an outie. And they don't, each doesn't remember what the other is doing. They're 2 totally separate people in one body. It's wild. And anyway, the finale last night was outstanding. That's all I'm going to say. Outstanding. Let's see. Mom text I'll get to in just a second because that's going to end the show. Will the Niners win a Super Bowl for? Hold on. Somebody calling from the 925. That's not my wife. See, I thought that was maybe going to be my wife. Like you said, you would do an hour. We're only an hour and 15 over. We're fine. Solid question. Let's see here. What do we have? No fighting, no infighting. I'm seeing infighting right here. As I quickly look at the chat line very quickly. Give Verlander the juice. He might be. I don't know, man. Verlander is he's a freak. I don't even know how to put it. Just a freak, man. Yeah, this is a great point. George Foreman named all his kids George. He did. I think there's like 4 of them. My son is named George. But yeah, once you use, I don't know, isn't that a general rule? You use one name, you got to move on. Although, no, Deion Sanders didn't do that. I think Gary Payton Sr., when he had 2 boys in 1 year with 2 different women, isn't that GP2? And so there's a Gary Payton II and there's Gary Payton Jr., right? Those are 2 different people. I guess you can do that. I mean, you must love your name if you're going to go GP2 and Gary Payton Jr. Like, that's a little much. Like, I don't think that I would have burdened my kid, George, with my name. I think my dad was that great. So my dad's name was George. My son's name is George. I would have never called him like John Jr. Like, hello. Unless it's like, family kind of a thing and family heirloom or, whatever it is, where you're not heirloom, but, a family tradition that you're going to pass down your name. I wouldn't feel comfortable with it. It's not a lot to live up to, though. It's not like Michael Jordan or something. Like Michael Jordan Jr. Like, great, thanks, Dad. Guess I'm never going to play basketball. Lord. Kidding me? I want to see the Lunds fight right after the show ends. We don't really fight. We're beyond that. But, yeah, she's going to – you know how it is with a significant other. She's probably going to give me a look. Like right now it's and I started a few minutes late, too, so it's 11:30-ish in Pacific time. And so she's going to look at me like, okay, you said you're going to go 10 to 11. And I haven't even wrapped up things yet. So, yeah, you could, yeah, that might be good. Should I take my phone? And just walk right in and give you a little glimpse of it? Because you asked Jimbo, I'm going to go, hey, what did you think of that? Let's see what she says. She's probably not watching today. She'll watch a lot of days, and then I get in trouble because I forget she's watching. But on a Saturday, I think she's got better things to do. What else? Anything else today? Because this is going to do it for the week. Unless if news breaks, we'll be back. And I will write that piece on Kyle Shanahan at johnlundunleashed.com. So that's episode 95. Madness, I'm at 89%. Purdy, 262. Mac Jones, can't get over those places. They were draft Mike Florio. Golden State at Atlanta, but it's more about Kawhi Leonard starting to play well, scaring me a little bit. I was scared of Houston when I popped up that thing, but they played a terrible schedule. Joe Ingles' story is great. Hot NBA teams. I told you, Giants injury. Encarnacion has a fractured hand. Last game at Scottsdale today. Severance finale was amazing. I'm at mom text. Did I play all the video I have? Yeah, I did. Didn't. Okay, that's good. Last thing, and you probably can relate to this, whether it's a mom, whether it's a dad, whether it's whatever. In fact, I'll just pull it up right now because I was going to kind of just go by the seat of my pants on this, but Here's what my mom says. Thinking about a short visit in April. How about Easter weekend? And then she writes at the end of the text, "This is mom." Like, I know it's old school. And when you would contact somebody, you would call somebody up and you go, "Hey, by the way, this is mom," or "Hey, by the way, this is John." Or it's like, first of all, it's on the caller ID, so I know who I'm talking to. And if it's just a random number, I never pick up the phone. But when people text me, you don't have to put like your name on it. So my mom does that all the time, like da 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 mom, da 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 mom, or she'll call and go, "Hi, this is mom," and I'm like, "Yeah, I know." Like, I probably wouldn't have picked up the phone if it wasn't you. Although I got to be honest, and I said this the other day, it's 100% the truth. The great thing about caller ID is it saves you so much time. Because what you do is you look at your phone and you go, "Okay, this is a 20-minute conversation. Do I have 20 minutes?" Like when my mom calls, it's 20 minutes. So I'll be like, And then if it goes to voicemail, she's probably there might be 3 or 4 people that still leave me voicemails. I never check voicemail. Because what I do, if I call somebody and I get voicemail, I just text them. And I go, "Hey, give me a call when you can." That's all. I'm not going to nobody leaves voicemails anymore. Nobody. I don't. And I rarely check them. And the only time I do is if somebody texts me and says, "Hey, your voicemail's full." And it's usually my mom going, "Hey, your voicemail's full." And I'm like, "Yeah," because I don't erase, like, I don't even look at voicemail. I don't even check it ever. But I check text. So if you text me, but make sure you put your name on there because I'm not sure who this is. Now, the only people now, having said that, if I don't have your name in my phone, and let's say you call me and I don't pick up and you're like, "He doesn't know who I am," then you text me and you tell me who you are, then I get it. But if you're my mom, I have you in my phone. Like it says mom. Anyway. And I got to call her back too. You want to tape something that's going to be funny? That's funny. Because the first thing that with my mom, the first thing that she'll do, even though she hasn't called me since like 1973, and it's very rare to get a text from her, which is why she puts mom on it because she forgets. But like I'll call her, and I even have a pillow here. She gave this to me. Watch this. This is in my my studio here. Call your mom. So like she's got this whole thought that I never call her, and I always call her. Like I'm the one who calls her. She never calls me. Never. So when I call her, like today, I got your text. What's up? And she go, "I haven't talked to you in 2 weeks." And I'm like, "Your finger isn't broken." Like I initiate all the calls, and most of the time the text, except for that. So anyway, I don't know if your parents are the same way, but that's how it is now. It's like, "Nice to know I'm still alive." And I'm like, "I call you." So anyway, mom, do people put name? Do people put like when they put their name on a text when they're a good friend of yours? I'm talking about like a family member, close friend. Like I know who you are. You're in my phone. Of course you're in my phone. Are you kidding me? I signed my Valentine's card to my wife with my name. That's classic. Your husband, Joe. Like no kidding. Yeah. Is it weird sometimes? Do you ever do this? Like you'll slip up every once in a while and you'll call your significant other by their name. Like, I don't know if you ever do that. I'd never call my wife's name's Lainey. I never say, "Hey, Lainey." Like I never say that. You know, it's just something, but she never calls me John. Like if I know something's wrong, she goes, "John." I'm like, "Oh boy." Like if I walk in there right now, it's 11:39. She won't even do that. She'll just look at me like, "You said 10 to 11. Like, "Yeah, but I didn't start till like 10:15 because I was putting stuff together for the show. It was working. It wasn't like I was screwing around, drinking coffee, watching the tournament, which I should have been doing. I wasn't. All right. Is that it? Yeah, it just means you're in trouble, 100%. I agree with you 100%. That just means you're in trouble. That's the only way, cheeseball. I agree with you 100%. Skills, what's up, man? Were you in here late today? I didn't see you there. Good to see you, man. Very nice to see you. Jimbo, good to talk to you. I talk to my mom quite a bit. I don't know that every day. I don't know that I need every day. But yeah, I talk to her quite a bit. Not every day. Weekly. I would say probably weekly. Let's see. Is that it? Great stuff. All right. If you missed anything, do remember we always say this at the end of the show. If you missed anything and you see the chalkboard there and you're like, "Wait a minute, what's the Purdy 262? All you got to do is go back and watch the show at any time on YouTube. John Lund Unleashed on YouTube. Also, Bay Area Sports Collective on YouTube. That's where my show is. Tom Tolbert and Polly Mack and Creative Tony. So either of those two places is great. You can go back to on X. It'll start from the beginning at John Lund Radio, and you can skip through that. Also on Instagram at John Lund Radio. You can watch it, and you can watch it full on Facebook too, John Lund or John Lund Unleashed. All those places. Easiest to go back on YouTube, because what I do is a few minutes after the show, after I post it on Apple, Spotify, your favorite podcast places, I also put a chapters only on YouTube. I put the chapters, and then you can just click to whatever you want. And that makes things very easy. I think that's it. We good? Everybody having a good day? Have a wonderful Saturday. Tomorrow is going to be the better weather, but not bad today. Hang out, relax, watch some tournament. Best of luck with your bracket if it's not already broken. If anything breaks, news breaks, make sure that you hit back here, John Lund Unleashed. That's why on YouTube you should subscribe, use the thumbs up, and make sure that your alerts are on. Thanks for hanging out on a Saturday. It means a lot to me. Have a great day. We will speak to you at the latest Monday morning at 8 a.m. Pacific. John Lund Unleashed. Have a great Saturday.
Thanks for hanging out with John Lund Unleashed. We'll try to be better next time, though I wouldn't hold my breath. Please like and subscribe on the John Lund Unleashed Pod YouTube channel. Watch live shows weekdays at 8 a.m. on YouTube, Instagram, and X. And make sure to have your alerts on for shows throughout the day or night. All things Lund can be found at johnlundunleashed.com. johnlundunleashed.com.
Goodbye!